Hi YouTube, how are you doing? I had a pretty good day. I put a lot of laundry away that I had hanging around. I just had to find more places for it. And not that I really did, but I crammed some stuff in my wardrobe that it's jam packed. I don't know. I should go through. I hate to get rid of stuff because I might wear it, you know. I I got like another bunch in another room that I gotta wash again and look at it and decide, you know how that goes, whether you want to wear it or not. Or they say, if you don't wear it like in a year, get rid of it. But that's not cool either because I have like this one suit jacket that's like sparkly and it's just for uh like New Year's Eve or something like that, So it's like, nah, I like my clothes. Never know. Like I have some really beautiful dresses that if I ever choose to wear them, that at least I have them. But my favorite one, it's got pearl buttons all the way down and it laces in the back and it's kind of a midi dress and then it's got roughly like sleeves and it's uh black with white flowers, real tiny. And then I like to wear like combat boots with it because it looks really cute with it like that. So just kind of my style. But anyway, um, oh, I had somebody ask why followers of God are depressed. Well, I don't know. I've met more depressed people that don't have any faith of any kind, more of them, especially working in the treatment center, um, big time. And when they found faith, they were a lot more happier, you know? So that's just my experience. And then I can tell you that when you're injured, like I had a car accident and couldn't walk, I pulled my spinal cord, or different injuries that I've had when you're laid up, you're more susceptible to being depressed because you're not feeling good. That causes a physical can cause an emotional. So if you've never been in that situation, count your lucky stars or your blessings or whatever you believe because you're damn lucky. And like I wrote to this person, some of us have had children die, others have had uh, real bad experiences of abuse and different things in our lives, and or seeing our children go through things, um, children that have been like molested and different things. Well, I'll just spit it out if some of you don't know. I had my adopted brother rape my son. So, that's not depression, it's sadness, extreme sadness. And if that makes me depressed because I follow God, um, I would say somebody was very sick and depressed because they don't. So that's just my outlook on that. So, and amongst thousands of things I could tell you that why why would a follower of God be depressed? Probably because we see the world as filthy as it is and we're sick of it, and we're not running around happy go lucky like some brain dead idiot that doesn't take life serious for others on this planet. That might have something to do with it, you know? And then there's a lot of so called Christians that are just flat out liars. And I'm sure they've got a major case of depression. They can pretend they're happy, but if they're scummy and they're lying about it, they're depressed or regressed, definitely regression. like not evolving as a human being, with compassion that we do get from God. So, yeah, just kind of speaking my mind here today. Oh, yeah. And I'm one of them that can be thoroughly injured, um, totally upset, amazingly sad, and still laugh through my day. So, and that is with the grace of God. So, um, I don't know who this person had met that they see followers of God as depressed, but people that I know that have a love of God, um, they're some of the happiest people I know. And I'm not talking about these freaking jerks that go in a church and pretend like, oh, they get drunk on Saturday night and screw their sister, then go into the Catholic Church on Sunday and or Saturday, whatever, and uh, ask God for forgiveness. No, I'm not talking about something like the filth that actually goes on in this world. People use their churches, and even the churches themselves will change the scriptures and the meanings of things so they can get away with their sins. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the book of God that's written right and wrong on our hearts. That book. So yeah. It's just that God decided, well, since mankind was going to take the scriptures that were meant with the commandments, which are good, and the seven deadly sins, really good advice to follow as a human society, um, no matter what. There's right and there's wrong in the world. So no matter what you call it, but God decided, well, since they're going to change the words and change the scriptures and everything else, then we're just going to make it come true. They want to play with people and they want to take advantage of people. Well, we're going to show them where the cow ate the calf, that type of thing. And it will come true. And I know this. It's not just faith. I actually foresaw things a long time ago. Even right now, what I'm doing right now, I foresaw that. Even when somebody writes me something incredibly asinine, I foresee that, you know, and I have words for that. You'll notice. People will notice. But yeah, when somebody means kind of has a ill feeling when they're writing me, God will always give me words for you. So, and you won't like them and they will hurt. They'll slice your psyche, you know? So, right down to the bone, to the soul of the matter. So, anyway, depression, no, we're just not fake. We're just not going to sit there and smile when somebody's acting like a crude piece of crap and pretend that everything's okay when it isn't. That's the difference between somebody that actually believes in God because they have reason to, because when they asked for help, they received that help. Like I wasn't supposed to walk and I asked for help. Um, there's so many times I have a major list. It's not a coincidence. There's times I didn't ask for help and I did not get it. The difference of realizing that somebody put me here and I'm supposed to be learning how to be a decent human being so I can handle my own affairs. That's what it's all about, Elfie. So, anyway, I was sort of busy yesterday. My first thing, I didn't even get a cup of coffee. My horse had went under a rope well, I didn't have a fence, but it was a rope. I just had to tighten it up, a nylon rope. But and got in by her hay, and she thought she was pretty funny. And I got out there, and if I had brought a little grain out with me, I could have put some in a little like ice cream bucket and got her out of there. But I took the rope and I was kind of throwing it at her butt, and she had me like chasing her around. So when I did get in to get my coffee, I was almost tired from her shenanigans. So I just left the rope down, let her eat on a bale because we were going to get one out today for her anyway. She had an old one she was eating on, and the grass in the yard, and I give her grain, but she just wanted one of them fresh ones. So today, instead of having Doug start up the tractor, I just went out there, and there was a little bit of an incline, and I'm not kidding, these things are like 900 pounds round bales. They're really huge, like extra huge. They're usually like 5 to 700 pounds. These ones are super duty. Because the farmers were having trouble getting in their field, so this guy let it get really long and then made humongous bales. Well, I just started like I put my legs against another bale and started getting it rolling kind of, and cut the strings, and I almost had it going down by this hill by her um lean to, and there's a tree there that would have stopped it, and Doug came out. He's like, well, I could have got that. I go, hey, just give me a hand, we don't have to start up the tractor. And so she's chewing on a brand new bale, but it's raining out, so I did throw some of it in her um, barn so she can just go in there tonight and chew on a little bit and keep warm. And yeah, because she's an older girl. She's 20. So I like to take care of her anyway. So I think the sweetest thing I ever seen was one time I went outside, and it was in an old barn that I had built her when I first got her. And there was my son, my oldest son, was laying down by my horse, and they were cuddling. It's like, oh, how sweet. That was so cute, you know. But anyway, yeah, she's a good girl. So a lot of people freak out because I let her run around in my yard, but we've got a lot of restoration rods, hot rods, and parts and things like that. And she's 100 times better than a watchdog. And people come in the yard, and if they don't have a good vibe about them, she won't leave them alone. She'll well, she's huge too. One of the biggest horses you'll ever stand next to, actually, unless it's like a Clydesdale or Percheron or something like that, like a draft horse breed. But as far as being tall and kind of intimidating, but she won't really hurt anybody. But she just kind of nudge them, and this one guy she didn't like, and she kept following him around, and she'd like nudge him, you know, and he'd move. Then she'd kind of go over by him again, and I was watching it. Usually I'll say something, but I didn't like the guy either, so I had fun just watching her just bug the crap out of him. But if somebody were to come in the yard at night, or even during the day, I'm pretty sure she would. If they did something, like if she saw me get hurt, I know that she wouldn't just stand there. In fact, somebody was going to kick my ass one time. A customer wanted to take his car out of our shop and not pay for it. And well, anyway, he was coming up the driveway to fight me. Doug went in his shop. I went in my horse's pasture. He's got an AK in there, but I have 1,200 pounds of badass flesh that would defend me. So not only can I fight my own battles, but I figured there was two of them. And so I figured, well, me and my horse, we could do anything. you know. So, But he stopped. He didn't. When I went in there, he stopped, and the look on his face was like. And then we had called the cops, and when the cops came, they're like, "You aren't taking this until you pay for it." And then they wanted to give us a check, and we're like, "No, if you've got money in the bank, you go cash your check, and then you bring it, and then we'll write your receipt, release your car, that type of thing." So, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not the first time, or it wasn't the last, but it was just one of them, you know. But it was his father-in-law that Dusty kept pushing around, not hurting him, like I said, but it was humorous. So, so yesterday was a little bit tiring. I ended up making burritos for supper and some homemade salsa and guacamole, and that was pretty good. So I just took one burrito and I put a bunch of vegetables and a bunch of guacamole by it. And yeah, it was good. And tonight I'm having pizza, extra cheese. So, yeah. Oh, and I even made a breakfast yesterday, and I usually don't do that, but I was hungry after running around out there. Um, Extremely. So I come in and I took some of my homemade bread and I put a hole in it and buttered both sides and then just cracked an egg in it and flipped it over. And then so you got your egg in your toast. I used to call it campfire toast when I was a bluebird and a campfire girl. But then when I met Doug's dad, he was doing it, and they did that in the army with their little portable little stoves that they had out in the field, and they did that. So it's like, oh, okay, that's where the campfire girls got it most likely because he was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was Sergeant Dwayne William Weast, Senior. So drove a tank. Mm. He tells a story, told a story. He's gone now, but of where when he was in Germany, um, times were really hard for everybody, but he had gone in this church and there was a guy coming out of the church and he had a bag of candy and he saw Doug's dad and he dropped it. They both just kind of like looked at each other and he dropped the candy and took off. So Doug's dad got this candy, you know, and they both were armed and they didn't shoot each other. And maybe he looked at Doug's dad, who was full blooded German, which is really ironic to have to fight your own nationality, blonde, blue eyed. Maybe they both looked like each other or something. I don't know, but I might have asked, but I don't remember what he told me. But yeah. It's raining again today, and we expect snow tomorrow, maybe like 5 inches. And I think, like out in North Dakota and Montana, they're going to get like a foot or more. So, wow. Yeah. But it'll probably melt because it's going to be like 49 degrees and up like towards 50 this next week. So, it's not going to stick around. So, I hope not anyway, but I have most of my stuff outside done, but I'd sure like, there's always more to do. Always, always. Like my squirrel feeder, I've got that's got windows on it, two sides. I've got to wash them and put them back in there. And then I want to make it where it's got more of a flap because so the rain or snow doesn't get in there because I have little red squirrels and they can sit on there and not get wet. So, and have more protection from the winter and the cold when they come to eat. So, yeah. Anyway, and the birds eat it. I usually get this bird feed. Um, Chicken scratch is what it is, and it's got the little mullet and different little seeds, little black ones that like tiny birds like and stuff. But I got 75 pounds of cracked corn, and it's got really tiny little cracked pieces. It's a really high grade from the feed mill instead of getting it from Walmart for the same price of a 40-pound bag at Walmart. I got 75 pounds of this. So, yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then I put some on the ground for bunnies and pheasants and deer will come in the yard. And they're in the yard this time of year because we've got apples, and the deer love to come up and eat off the apple trees. And, you know, bear will eat them. So, yeah, I'm sure they're about ready to hibernate. There was one that got hit on one of our roads about 15 miles from here. Um, a 500-pound bear, somebody hit it and then took off and didn't call like the DNR or nothing. And Doug said, well, they could have stopped calling. I said, well, they probably didn't have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you're not going to stick around and wait for the cops. So, or if they were drinking or doing some kind of drugs or something like that. So, yeah. They might have even got hurt. I had a friend of mine. She was riding in a big Ford truck back in 1976. It was a brand new 75 and 3/4 ton heavy duty truck. And she, Montana, and she hit a cow, came through the windshield and broke her son's arm, um, hurt her husband's back, broke her neck. These people were all kinds of messed up just from a cow. Came right through the windshield at them, up over the hood, bam, you know. Because out there, they have these cattle uh, guards on the ground. They'll have a fence, but you can drive into the land where the cattle are over these cattle guards in the ground. They're like 12 feet wide and probably, I'm going to say 8 or 10 feet. No, 12 foot long or 8 or 10 feet wide. There's different sizes of them, but they're made out of pipe, and the pipes are spaced where the cow's feet, they can't walk over it. Now a horse could jump over that, but a cow wouldn't. They don't. So, but you can drive over them. Is my point. Oh, it was really gross. I was driving a fuel truck while I was pulling a big tank of fuel up into Canada from Montana, up to a great big field that we were farming up there that day. And there was a tractor that ran across the bull snake, bull, bull, that was in the road, and they just ran right over it. And the local ranchers around there who own thousands of acres, but we used to all kind of work together when it was like roundup time or branding time, that type of stuff. We'd work as a community together. But so we all had CBs. We're on our talking, and the crappy thing about it, and I saw it, was that whoever drove over it could have waited till the snake got across the road, and farmers cherish those because they eat rats and mice, and they're not deadly at all. Of course, there's rattlesnakes out there too, but this was just a harmless bull snake just crossing the road, and they could have got out and just kind of guided it along or even scared it probably. But instead, they drove right over that thing. And it was the grossest seeing them tire tracks on that dead snake. And it was like almost as wide as a dirt road. So that was a big, big snake, very old, most likely. So that was really gross. I like my reptiles, like and amphibians, like frogs, and I had albino African clawed frogs, and then I had a leopard one too. But the white ones, Powder and Odie, had red eyes, and they were white with black claws, and they would kind of purr. They'd sing to me. I had them for 13 years. I got them when they were that big, and they ended up like huge. They'd stand in their tank. He stood like Mr. Peanut with his arm up like this on the tank, on the side of the tank, and just kind of like he was talking to me. So they were really cool, very cool little animals. And then I had a baby snapping turtle I raised, and other turtles, a lot of them actually. And then a big, big snapper had I had a box, and she had her babies in the box, and I counted every single turtle that went over to the pond from my house. There was 99 baby turtles. Isn't that amazing? And they are cute when they're newborn. They're funny. They just kind of scootle along, and their shells are soft, and they're poor little babies. If birds get them in between the water and the where they're born, they're easy for them to eat at that moment. So I was kind of keeping an eye on them to make sure that they'd be okay. So, and they live. They don't know how long they live, but over 100 years old for sure. There's stories about they had put turtles, which is gross, in a cornerstone of a building, and when they tore the building down like 100 years later, that turtle had hibernated and it was still alive in there. I have to look that up. I can't remember what city that was in. It could have been New York. New York. I'm not sure. So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna close this for now. Thank you for joining me. And hey, you know, I, as far as taking information or advice, I don't listen to anybody. I never have. I have God written on my heart. That's all I mean, if I listen to somebody for entertainment, but as far as giving me advice for who to watch or what to know, or I read white papers, and all I decoded stuff with the Masons and wrote in gematria when I was 15 years old, 12 to 15 and onward. I've been into this for that long, and I'm certainly not going to listen to anybody. In fact, I put a lot of my information out on the internet back in the 90s. So I won't be listening to anybody. So please don't give me any advice or any links to anything. I'm not following them. I'm not listening to them. There's nothing they're going to tell me that I don't know. And if I don't know it, God will put it upon my heart. Um, that's the way that is. I'll never listen to another human being and take their advice. Ever, ever. I don't do that. Ever. Never. If I listen to somebody and I know that they're full of shit, because I'll always find that little lie in there, or that trace of bullshit, it'll just piss me off, and I'm not into that. I've done that enough, plenty of times. So, you know, that's the way that is. So, and I've done my homework and I know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to listen to nobody else. There's the bottom line for that. So, okay, everybody, thank you for joining me. Peace and love, for real, from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. Good night or day, wherever you're at.